Finally, an easy German grammar video. Today we're looking at ieren verbs. Why do I love these verbs so much? Well, they all end in ieren and a lot of them look like English. Zum Beispiel, wie sagt man to telephone auf Deutsch? Telefonieren. Wie sagt man to repair auf Deutsch? Reparieren. Und wie sagt man to study auf Deutsch? Studieren. Notice the intonation is on the E of the ieren. Studieren. Today we're looking at how to form the perfect tense with these verbs. If you're not sure how to form the perfect tense in German, I've got a video in this playlist that goes through the grammar in detail. So, ieren verbs in the perfect tense. First of all, we need to form the past participle. And to do this, we simply take off the en and add a t. There's no ge with ieren verbs. So, telefonieren, the past participle is telefoniert. Reparieren, the past participle would be repariert. And studieren, the past participle would be studiert. Sehr gut. Most ieren verbs take haben, although there is the odd exception, which we're going to talk about later. So before we look at a few examples, let's just double check our word order knowledge. Where does the past participle go in a German clause? At the end, and the auxiliary verb, we're going to be looking at examples with haben, goes in which idea? The second idea in a German clause. Sehr gut. Wir schauen uns also einige Beispiele an. 1. Telefonieren. Ich habe mit meinem Bruder telefoniert. 2. Reparieren. Ich habe den Schreibtisch repariert. 3. Studieren. Er hat Jura studiert. 4. Buchstabieren. Sie hat ihren Namen buchstabiert, aber der Beamte hat ihn trotzdem falsch aufgeschrieben. Fotografieren. Ich habe meinen besten Freund fotografiert. Probieren. Ich habe das Essen probiert. Lecker. So almost all ieren verbs take haben, but there's one verb in particular to watch out for, and that is passieren, meaning to happen. This verb takes sein. Zum Beispiel, was ist mit meinem Buch passiert? What's happened to my book? Das ist mir nie passiert. That's never happened to me. Okay, so passieren takes sein. It can take haben when it's used as a transitive verb, meaning it needs a direct object. When passieren takes haben, it means to pass something. So depending on context, it could be to pass something by, to pass through something, or to pass over something. Zum Beispiel, das Boot hat die Brücke passiert. The boat has passed the bridge. Oder hat die Grenze passiert. He's crossed the border. He's passed the border. That's just something to be aware of, but more often than not, you'll use passieren with sein as the auxiliary verb. For a full list of common ieren verbs with example sentences, you can download my free PDF linked below. Now, as with other videos, I have a top tip for you at the end of this lesson. And that is to watch out for separable ieren verbs. Yes, they exist, unfortunately. Zum Beispiel, ausprobieren. This is a separable verb. If you're not sure how to form the perfect tense of other separable verbs, then this video is linked here and it's also in this playlist. Ausprobieren, notice now the intonation is on aus because it's separable. Ausprobieren means to try something out. Zum Beispiel, ich probiere die Sportart aus. I try out the sport. In the perfect tense, although it's separable, we are not going to add a ge to the past participle. Ich habe die Sportart ausprobiert. And the reason for this is because ieren does not have a ge in the past participle. So even though it's separable, Ausprobieren, we're not sticking a GE in between aus and probiert. Just ausprobiert. Before my last little tip, there are 3 important exceptions. Verlieren, frieren, schmieren. These end in ieren, but they're not actually ieren verbs because ieren is part of the main verb and has not been added on as a suffix. So they do not belong to this rule. The past participle of verlieren is verloren, frieren, gefroren und schmieren, geschmiert. Telefonieren, which is an ieren verb, comes from telefon. Studieren comes from studium. Kommunizieren comes from Kommunikation. Verlieren is just verlieren. And that's how you can remember that these verbs do not follow the ieren rule. And one last thing to note is that separable, inseparable verbs also exist. So if you've been watching all the videos in this playlist, I've gone through what separable and inseparable verbs look like in the perfect tense, and you can have a separable, inseparable verb. Zum Beispiel vorbereiten, to prepare. Sich auf etwas vorbereiten means to prepare for something and is a really common verb in German. Now vor is separable, it's our separable prefix. And bereiten is a verb on its own that can mean to prepare something or to cause something. But what's important here is that bereiten has an inseparable prefix be, and therefore, although this is a separable verb, vorbereiten, in the perfect tense we are not going to add the GE between vor and bereiten. Zum Beispiel Präsens. Ich bereite mich auf die Prüfung vor. I'm preparing for the exam. In the perfect tense, what do you think it's going to look like? Ich habe mich auf die Prüfung vorbereitet. Bereiten is regular, which is why the past participle ends in a T, and there's no GE between the separable prefix and the rest of the verb. Ich habe mich auf die Prüfung vorbereitet. Sehr gut. Und das war's. That was a lot of grammar. For some light-hearted relief, go check out my videos on why German is such a beautiful language or how to survive the day in Germany. Tschüss!